Andy, as you know, so-called forced labor in Xinjiang was a big story recently because of Better Cotton Initiative's statement that they will not use products made of forced labor in Xinjiang, as a result of which there were many protests from movie stars in mainland China, and I gave up buying or using my Burberry products. Now, you visited Xinjiang many times. Did you ever get a chance to visit these re-education centers?
I wouldn't call them re-education centers. There were centers set up during the time of my visit for the purpose of the de-radicalization.
De-radicalization.
Which is part and parcel of a more comprehensive counterterrorism strategy.
Okay.
Now, these centers are called vocational skill, education, and training centers. Now, they are established and run according to national law and local law. National law including national on national security, on counterterrorism, on crimes, even criminal proceedings, right? And local laws including laws on counterterrorism and de-radicalization. So there's definitely clear legal basis for the establishment and the running of these centers.
What sort of vocational skills do they teach at these centers?
I mean, the trainees have a choice. Now, there are 4 core syllabus. Now, one is the national language. You'll be surprised that some of these trainees who live in a more rural part of Xinjiang hardly speak Putonghua. So integration becomes a problem. So the training on the national language, which is Putonghua, becomes very important. And then there is this training on the law. And obviously you would like people to be law-abiding, but unless they know about the law, it will be very difficult for them.
Legal education.
More or less, not formal one. And then they get educated on vocational skill, training on vocational, with choice.
What sort of skills?
Now, for the female trainees, they typically take up the beauticians, they take up the arts and crafts, and some others which are not heavy duty. For men, many took up training as an electrician, as a bricklayers, as a construction workers. So they have a choice. And sometimes these courses were offered according to local demand. Now, I visited 2 such centers. One was established using a newly built secondary school complex. Very good facility. I mean, you would have thought that you entered a higher training institution if you're not aware that it is such a center. The other one is a disused secondary school complex. Not so good, but adequate facility. I don't see any high walls, no barbed wires, no high security either. No, there are teaching blocks, proper teaching blocks, proper residential blocks, administration block, of course, other training facilities, including sports, sports training. So, typical boarding type of training.
How many students in each of these schools?
Depending on the size of the centers, some can accommodate up to 1,000. Typically, they would be able to accommodate a few hundreds, because these places, these secondary school, whether new one or old one, they were built for residential education anyway. So they were built with capacity. All right. And apart from local laws, I understand from what I saw definitely, reference were also made to relevant UN protocols and resolutions, including the one on the UN strategy on the global strategy on counterterrorism, as well as the UN action plan on prevention of violent extremism. Because these strategies and this action plan contain a list of actions recommended to governments. And I can see the Xinjiang government taking up some of these, perhaps most of these initiatives.
So how long were the students kept at these centers?
Now,
and how were they selected?
Now, they come from primarily 3 main sources. One is those indoctrinated with the extremist ideas, including those who associate themselves with terrorist organizations. Right? The other categories are those who are associated with terrorist organization and commit lesser offense and shown remorse. So instead of giving jail sentence, they get sent to these centers. And the last categories are those more serious ones who have served the sentence, so jail sentence, but require follow-up training. So there are these three categories of trainees that they need to train. And the time it takes for them to complete the program depends on their progress. For those who progress fast enough, they could finish the training in as short as 6 months. For those who take longer, I was told probably some take up to a year. And upon completion of training, they are given certificate, which actually is documents which they can use for seeking jobs.
I see. And did you see any signs of violence or maltreatment?
None at all. I mean, I visit the classroom during the classroom training, all right, both on law and on the national language. I also visited the workshops when they got trained in all sorts of different things. And these centers, by the way, they were run by Home Affairs officials, seconded from the Home Affairs Department, the local department, as well as from the local education department. And the law enforcement agencies were not involved in the running of these centers. So the centers, actually the focus is, as I say, is de-radicalization. But at the end of the day, it is about inclusion, social inclusion. It's about reintegration with the mainstream society.
Do you know how many such vocational skills centers there are in Xinjiang?
Now, by the time I visited Xinjiang, it was coming to the end of the program. Although the program started after 2016, went for about 3 years, all right, to 2019. And it was so successful that order returned. And obviously, when order returned, then you don't see the three category trainees. Now, without the trainees, there's no point keeping the centers. As I understand, the centers are all out of business now, and I don't think any of them are operative at this point in time.
So the programs have actually been quite successful.
Now, from the result achieved so far, as I mentioned in the last interview, there were thousands of terrorist attacks in Xinjiang during the 1990s, all the way to the 2015-2016, with hundreds of people killed, all right, many more injured. But then after 2016, when this comprehensive measure, counter-terrorism measure were taken, the situation improved gradually to such a point that actually there were no terrorist attack at all during those times. Obviously, the organizations will take time to eradicate all together, but the attack was stopped.
Well, it's really ironic that the West took no interest in the terrorist attacks which caused so many civilians, innocent people to be killed, and now making a mountain out of molehill, making a lot of fuss about these centers, allegations of forced labor. Well, Andy, thank you very much for telling us about your visit.
Thank you.
Again, I hope I'll get a chance to visit one day, and I hope you'll be my tour guide.
Well, I look forward to that, and I'm sure you'll be very welcome. Thank you, Regina.
Thank you.